Hi guys, we are on lesson 3-13. We're gonna do it a little differently because since I'm not there, we're not gonna do the Tangram stuff up here. So don't worry about the math message for now. But someone raise your hand and tell me what is our 5-number summary for box plots. What are the 5 numbers that we need to have? And you might need to look back at the lesson we did yesterday to remind you. Someone raise your hand. So we need the minimum, the maximum, the median, and then who remembers these two in between? In between here, the lower portion, when we take the middle of the lower part, we get Q1, and then above, when we take the median of the upper, we get Q3. So we have our minimum, Q1, median, Q3, and maximum. This is our 5-number summary. So instead of actually doing the tangrams and writing down how long it takes you to make each one, I just made up some numbers down here at the bottom of my page. So everyone take a minute here, and I wrote for rabbit. Everyone write these numbers down with me. 63, 84, 85, 87, 107, 146, 159, 217, 218, and 236. And that is off of this box plot is going to be in seconds. So I'm imagining 10 students, and those were their times that many seconds it took them to make the rabbit. And then same for the horse. I have 10 numbers here: 92, 97, 102, 119, 173, 193, 226, 247, 261, and 300. So you should have 10 numbers for each of our animal figures that we're pretending that we made. So going back to our 5-number summary, what do we need to do? Let's start with the rabbit. What do I need to label first? Let's start with the easiest ones. What are the 2 easiest to find? Our minimum and our maximum. Those are our 2 easiest, right? We don't have to do anything special. They're just already there, especially because I put this in order for us, least to greatest already. If they were not in order, we would have had to put them in order. But since I wrote this myself, I just automatically did that. So we have our minimum and we have our maximum of the rabbit set. And then what else do I need to do? That's 2 of my 5. The next one I need to find is my median. So we remember to take, when we do our median, we start on the outermost minimum and maximum, and we start going our way in until we get to the middle. And this time we have 2 in the middle, 107 and 146. Are those close enough together that we can just find the middle, or how can we do that? Who remembers? Raise your hand. Remember that we find the mean of these 2. So we add them together and divide by 2. So if we add these together, 146 plus 107, we get 13, carry the 1, 5, and 2. So we get 253, and then we need to divide that by 2. And when we work that out, 2 goes into 2 one time, gives me exactly 2. Bring down my 5. 2 goes into 5. 2 times gives me 4. Subtract. Gives me 1 left. Bring down my 3. 2 goes into 13. 6 times gives me 12. Subtract that. I end up with a 1. Now remember, when we run out of whole numbers, then we add our decimal and our 0, and then bring that 0 down. And then we have 2 into 10, which would give us 0.5. So our median is 126.5, or 126 and a half. Hope you guys can see this okay. It's hard on this little camera tripod thing to get it angled correctly. So underneath these two, I'm going to write in my 126.5. And then remember, for our quartile 1, we take the median of our lower half, our lower portion here. And if we look, we start here and go in. And here we have 84 and 85. So we know pretty easily that the quartile 1 would be 84 and a half. We don't need to add those together and divide. And then up here we have 217 and 218. So again, pretty easy. 217 and a half. So now we've got our 5 numbers summary for the rabbits. So now we can build our box plot using those 5 numbers. So minimum 63. So if we look here, each of these lines is a 10. So 60, so 63 is probably somewhere. Make sure we're lining up also with the rabbit. So 63, just slightly past the 60 mark, and draw your vertical line. Our maximum, 236. So 210, 220, 230. 36 will be a little over halfway between those two. Draw your vertical line. So there's our minimum and maximum. Then our median, 126 and a half. So here is 120, 126 and a half, somewhere close to that. And then quartile 1, 84 and a half. So here's 60, 70, 80, 84 and a half, pretty close to right between there. There's quartile 1. And then quartile 3, 217.5. So do we have 210? 217.5 will be a little over halfway to the next tick mark, to 220. And there we have our 5 number summary. Now, remember, when we make the actual box plot now, all we do is connect our Q1 to our Q3 to make the box, and then connect the box to our minimum and maximum. So there's our box plot for the rabbit times. Now we're going to go down and do the same thing for the horse tangram time. So we know, easy right off the bat, minimum, maximum. Don't have to do anything special there. I already wrote it in order, least to greatest. So finding our median is pretty simple, starting on the edge and working our way in. So we end up with 173 and 193. Now that seems kind of far apart, but it's 20. So if we think about cutting 20 pieces in half, that tells us that we need to add, that the very middle would be adding 10 here or taking away 10 from here. So our median would be 183. So there's 3 of our 5. Now taking the lower portion of our data set, finding the median. So now we have 97 and 102. And if we think from 97 to 102, that's 5. So cutting 5 in half gives us 2 in half. So if we add on 2 in half to 97, that gives us 99.5 as our quartile 1. Then quartile 3, we find the median of the upper portion there. So going from the outers in, 247 to 261. That one I don't really know off the top of my head too well, so I'm going to go ahead and find the average of that. So we have 247 and 261. Add those together. 7 plus 1, 4 plus 6, carry my 1, and I get 508. And then divide that by 2. 2 can go into 5. 2 times gives me 4. Subtract gives me 1. Bring down the 0. 2 into 10. 5 times exactly. See how nice and neat I'm writing and small so I can fit this work. Even though there's hardly any room, I can fit it here. So 10 minus 10 leaves me nothing. Bring down that 8. 2 into 8 gives me 4. So my quartile 3 is 254. So there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got our 5 numbers. And then we do the same thing. But now we're going up to the horse level on this. So this is so that we can compare the 2 sets of data here. So we have 92 as our minimum. So 60, 70, 80, 92. About there. Our maximum is all the way up to 300, so we can go straight up to 300. Our median is 183, so 50, 150, 160, 170, 180, 183 would be just past the 183, or the 180 tick mark there for 183. Quartile 1, we have as 99.5, so we can go right about at that 100 tick mark, slightly behind. I don't know, you won't even be able to tell really. And then our quartile 3 is 254. So here's 250, so slightly close to halfway there. Just try to get it as close as you can. It's not going to be perfect since there's not tick marks in between there. So there's our 5 number summary with our vertical lines representing those numbers. Now we go quartile 1 to quartile 3 to make our box. And then we connect our minimum and our maximum to the box like that. So as we can see, what's a general statement that you could make about how long it took to do each of these puzzles? Which one took more time? As you can see, the horse tangram must have taken more time because our minimum is higher than this minimum and our maximum is higher than that maximum. So all of our numbers here fell higher than these numbers here. So our horse box plot shows that the horse tangram took longer to build than the rabbit tangram. Let's do letter B here. Explain which box plot has more variation, that is, which one is more spread out. When we think of that word variation, we need to think of the range. So variation and range. Which one has the bigger spread? Who remembers how to find the range? Because these are, if we look at the visually, they're pretty close together. So we could actually use the range and figure that out exactly. The range, remember, is simply maximum minus minimum. So if we did 236 minus 63, and then 300 minus 92, we would see that the horse data is just slightly more spread out than the rabbit data. So we would say so I'm just going to put horse just to shorten it. And then letter C, as we said, which one, someone raise your hand, remind us which one took less time? Was it the horse or the rabbit? And we said it was the rabbit. And then how do we know? So we could say something like rabbit B/C. Remember that, guys? B/C stands for because. Rabbit because the min and max were both lower. And if I had room, I would have written both lower than the horse times. But since I have all that work down there, we can just shorten it to that. All right, let's turn our page. And we're going to work on something fun called interquartile range. Now, this sounds crazy, but it's actually really simple. To find interquartile range, all you need to do is subtract your quartiles. Instead of subtracting your minimum and your maximum, all you're doing is subtracting, this is going to fall over every time. Let's see if I can write it like this. All right, so our interquartile range. So let's draw an arrow here and a star. And I'm going to put, don't fall over, IQR equals, and it's just Q3 minus Q1. So as soon as you find your quartile 1 and your quartile 3, using that median, then you just subtract those two numbers, and that's your interquartile range. So if we look back at our Tangram puzzles, let's see, so it says find the range for the 2-time puzzles. So what is the actual range for, we have to look back here. So we would need to take 236 minus 63. So I'm going to write that one over here. 236 minus 63. And then the horse one was 300 minus 92 for our regular range, just the range of the entire data set. So to figure this out, so we do 6 minus 3 gives me 3. 3 minus 6, can't do that, so we borrow. That becomes 13 minus 6, which is 7, and bring down the 1. 1 minus nothing is 1. So for the rabbit, the regular range, the range of the whole data set is 173. And then for the horse, we can't subtract or borrow with 0, so we have to go to the 3. That becomes a 2. That becomes 10. Borrow now from that 10, that becomes a 9. And now this is a 10, so 10 minus 2 gives me 8. 9 minus 9 gives me nothing, and 2 minus nothing gives me 2. So our horse's range is 208 for the whole data set. Now, using what we just learned here, Q3 minus Q1, now we're finding the interquartile range for each of these. So our rabbit, let's look for the Q3 and the Q1 of the rabbit. Look back at your data set or at your box plot, either one. what is for the rabbit? Which of our numbers here? The 84.5, that is our Q1, and this 217.5, that is our Q3. So we need to write 217.5 minus 84.5. So that's for the rabbit. So 217.5 minus 84.5. When we subtract with decimals, do we line them up? Yes, we do. And we just drop that decimal straight down into our answer when we subtract that. So 5 minus 5 is nothing. 7 minus 4 gives us 3. 1 minus 8, can't do that, so we borrow. Becomes 11 minus 8, gives us 3. 1 minus nothing gives me 1, and then I just drop that decimal straight down. So the interquartile range for the rabbit is 133. And then the horse, same thing, go find the Q3 and the Q1. So looking at the horse's data set, we have 99.5 is our Q1, and 254 is our Q3. So 254 minus 99.5. 254 minus, now how am I going to line this up? Because 254 does not have a decimal right now, but 99.5 does. So who can tell me real quick, where should I put my 99.5? So we need to add a decimal, right, to the 254 and fill in with a 0, and then we can put the 99.5 in place below. And now we subtract. So 0 minus 5, can't do that. Borrow. Make that a 3. This becomes a 10. 10 minus 5 gives us 5. 3 minus 9, can't do that, so borrow. That becomes a 4. That's now 13 minus 9. Gives me 4. 4 minus 9, can't do that again, so borrow. That's a 1 now, and that's a 14 now. 14 minus 9 gives me 5. 1 minus nothing gives me 1. And when we subtract with decimals, just drop it straight down into our answer. So the interquartile range for the horses was 154.5. So it's as simple as that. Range is just maximum minus minimum. Interquartile range is just Q3 minus Q1. So it sounds kind of crazy, but if you think about the word, that prefix there, inter, like interdependence that we learned about in excuse me, in social studies, that means that it's connected, right? So interquartile, so in between the quartiles. So quartile 3 minus quartile 1. Okay. I think we're going to stop there for today. We'll save 2 and 3 here for when I get back. Maybe we can practice again, just to hit on box plots again. So you can go ahead and put this journal away, and you'll have your home link 3-13 to go with this page.